1 acre of solar, fully arrayed, provides hopefully enough power to light up 750 houses. 1 acre. 750 houses, 12 hours. Unless you have subordinate thermal energy with it, in a sense of using it for the next day's use, 12 hours and somebody else will fire it up. The pending investigation into using a Manchester Road site for farm solar is limited at best and will be filled with local legal challenges. The community members chosen to the BPU board must have already obtained board energy development experience and application for such in order to be involved in the future the question and this is dynamic, folks. I mean, what's happening in the state level on climate is fine and good, but the impacts on this utility in its future is going to be monumental. Unless we prepare for it, we understand it, we work on both the state level, through the utility, and the mayor's office, we will be on the rear end of the successful initiation of our venture into future energy use and development. We cannot have people coming into that board that are chosen in a random selection manner without experience in energy use and development. If they don't have it, the board, which will be held responsible for this utility's future, will be on a learning curve that will take years to understand what's really happening between a kilowatt, a megawatt, a gigawatt, a terawatt. I could go on and on with this stuff. So if any of you people who want to challenge why we should not have these people, then let's sit down and talk about what the real issues are. Thank you.
Anybody else? This time we'll have Dave Lovers is with us tonight, obviously, to deal with. I know all of us had over the weekend probably lots of emails and phone calls and text messages about the garbage situation, and so Dave's here to answer some questions that anybody has, or anything about the policy or anything. So Dave, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. I think that Council President Dulce and I had hoped to get this done in December, and sorry for the reactionary part of doing it tonight. But appreciate very much Dr. Scarpino and his comments. I think that for many of the city council members, we've been dealing with this for many years, related to the desire to have citywide containers and to realize the solid waste division carrying out actually what's required in the city code. So if we look at the rules have never said put bags of garbage out on the terrace and we'll come and pick them up. That certainly was the practice for many years, but that practice had a lot of shortcomings. I did hand out our schedule of rates for the solid waste division, which highlights a few of the rules and a few of the options for our customers related to those rules, and our recycling calendar that went out to all of our customers throughout the month of December. We even modified the recycling calendar to include communications related to the garbage containers, just because we know that we rolled this out at the beginning of July last year. We had the container distribution in May and June. We've been through a lot of iterations of working towards rules and compliance on the program. We've actually received, I think, a lot of positive feedback about how the containers in the city are working out and how that process is working out. So if we look at the rule has, I think, been for many, many years that all of the residents need to have a container with a lid, and that's where their garbage goes. their bagged garbage goes. And we continue to work towards being compliant with those rules. For us and with these new containers, I think the primary reasons have to do with employee safety as to why we don't want bags on top of the containers, why we don't want bags overflowing. It's very difficult to get that container with the extra bags to the back of the truck to be tipped. Some of those bags that are extra bags fall, stuff breaks into the street, stuff breaks on the terrace. We have a lot of hypodermic needles, we have a lot of glass, we have other things in these bags that we're trying to keep our employees not picking up and handling the bags themselves. That was one of the reasons why we went to the standard container program. The other thing is we get, as you said, more towards the warmer months and the hotter months. We have animals, we have birds, we have different things that get into the garbage bags. We have cockroaches, we have different pests that occur related to loose and bag garbage on the terrace. So we're trying to work towards a process where that we have our customers, that everyone understands the rules, everyone understands why the rules are in place, and if collectively we don't agree with the rules, then we can work to change the rules for the better. But if any individual customer has more garbage than fits in the container, if that's a regular occurrence, if that's a weekly occurrence, if that's a couple times a month occurrence, then they can have one or two extra containers on their own, so that whatever garbage they're producing can be put in a container every week. If other individuals have one or two or three bags every week, but they have occasions during the year where they have extra garbage, then Doc, to your point, can make a phone call, can get an extra pickup that week, and put your container back out on another day other than your normal pickup day.
So did I understand you correctly, Dave? That if you have more than enough bags for that container, you're able to use a separate plastic container next to it with a
another standard container from the utility, and you would have two of those containers instead of one of those containers. And that costs an extra $13 a month to have two containers.
That might be a hardship on some folks.
Understand. So then, if we move beyond the rule, then we get to the process, and I think we've had this issue before in the past, where from a communication standpoint, we work really hard to communicate, but obviously, we can do a lot better. So, you know, we think we communicate quite a bit. We use social media, we use our local media, we do the BPU newsletters on our website. We talk at board meetings, we get covered at board meetings. You know, could we have used a text alert system for this instead of flushing? I think we absolutely could have. One of the issues we have is we get all that communication out there and still, you know, customers aren't aware and aren't compliant. And so this is a period of time that we're trying to work through where it becomes clear what the expectation is that the container needs to have bagged garbage in it, and the container lid needs to be closed for it to be collected. Do we anticipate that the problems that have occurred over the last week and are going on this week is how we're going to run the program going forward? It is not our intent to leave garbage every week on each of our different routes and not have it collected, right? We know that that's a problem, and we certainly don't want that to be a practice. What we want is we want everybody to understand what the rules of the program are. If they don't like the rules of the program, if we need to change the rules of the program, then we can continue to do that. We work on that all the time. We seek feedback, we seek input. We're more than interested in providing a service that everybody thinks is a valuable service. But it's really important that with these containers, that the garbage be bagged and the lids be closed. And that's what we need to get to. And I think in the coming weeks ahead of us, if there's issues with 1 inch, 3 inches, 4 inches, the lid's not very close, I see us picking up that garbage, right, and dumping that garbage and not having this issue. It's not our desire to fine and put fees out to all of our customers. It's to continue to work through this process like we have since mid-May as to how to use the containers. If you need a small container, how we distribute that, not to have your personal containers out there, not to have extra bags loose away from the container. I mean, we continue to work through a process. I knew this was gonna be a difficult rollout, and we would have to go through a lot of different iterations. So I communicate that the rule is in alignment with, I think, all the feedback that we've received over the years. And I apologize for the process where it seems like we caught a lot of people off guard. And again, I think that becomes a much a very difficult process, especially for the city council members and the mayor's office. When residents are surprised, it's a problem, and there's a lot of complaints. I do apologize also that we're going through a few positive cases of COVID within our customer service and solid waste division, so that hasn't helped this recent 8-day period that we're moving through, as our responsiveness to our customers hasn't been where our bar is related to working with our customers and trying to help them through these issues.
You do a fantastic job, Dave, you always have. Do you worry a little bit about people perhaps illegally disposing of their garbage in lieu of purchasing that second can? Has that come across in your board meetings? Because I would be concerned that some people might try to circumvent the system, you know what I mean, instead of getting that second can. I mean, I don't, obviously not me, but you know what I'm talking about? I'm just-
Yeah, I mean,
What are they gonna do with the extra garbage if they don't call for another can?
I don't think that we see a lot of that. I do
Good.
think that we see some of that in repetitive places. I think our bigger concern is that they won't find an outlet for that garbage, and it'll end up on the porch, it'll end up in the backyard, it'll end up to be a public health issue, it'll end up to be a Department of Development, code enforcement burden. And so, yeah, I think that's a risk, but I don't think we see that typically.
Good.
I mean, we pick the garbage up every week, and so, you know, I just think it's really poor timing where we're at here. I think that we started working through this after New Year's, which means we started working through this after Christmas and after New Year's. And I think some of this is self-inflicted that I take responsibility for. But ultimately, and we're doing that, and we're gonna work through this with them. I would anticipate, you know, in the next couple of weeks, we'll be able to get through this and carry on forward. And any specific addresses, all have my information. I've been talking to residents last week and helping them work through that process. I understand not happy, and you know, our job is to work through that with them. So, with all the calls and emails and everything you're getting, I apologize for that. But I mean, this is an important part of the program. And I think that I talked to one individual last week that said, well, I just have 2 extra bags in the lids, you know, way up, but why can't your employees just take the 2 bags and put them on the terrace? And that's not the solution for our community, because our employees will be taking those 2 bags and putting them on the terrace in perpetuity. Because if we can't get compliance with the program, right, then those 2 bags are gonna be on the terrace, and we're all gonna be talking about what's happening with the garbage in those 2 bags. And the customer has no desire to be compliant with the program because the garbage gets picked up for the most part, and then they take those 2 bags and put them in the container again. I mean, I think there's a lot of different examples. We've had conversations about why don't you pick it up and put a penalty on their bill. Again, if we pick it up, then we're picking up something that's not compliant. And our customers don't always or necessarily see an extra fee on their bill 30 days later and connect it to the fact that they're not compliant. So what's going on last week, this week, and probably the next couple of weeks is not, I think, the hard execution of this rule where we're going to leave garbage around the city. That's absolutely not the intent, and we're working through that. We're trying to make sure that people understand why the rule is in place, and try to support that as best as we can.
To answer my question, I think the biggest concern that I had was, and we've had issues even out throughout the fall, and the summer, with, like you say, people who are not complying, and then they just leave the garbage there all week, and it just sits and sits. And the complaints really aren't coming from the people, from those people, they're coming from the neighbors that have to live next to this, where they have blatant multiple garbage cans and bags that just sit and sit and sit, and then it gets added on to the next week and the next week. And so if they're not picked up, you know, some of these, I don't know what the answer is to that. It's difficult and unfair to people in the neighborhoods who are complying to have to live across the street from or next door to garbage that sits there for 3, 4, 5, 6 days or more, and then gets added to it. I think that's the big question, I think, that needs to be answered. How do you deal with that? If it's not fining or adding more fees to those, I don't know. And if you, like you said, if you don't pick them up, that reinforces the fact they don't have to comply. So it's kind of that's a tough one to, but I mean, obviously you realize that you can't leave garbage, it's a health issue. You can't just leave garbage out and put a sticker on it and call it a day. It's gonna have to be dealt with, especially in the summer months when it's warm, and then you're really getting into some issues. But it
Yeah.
sounds like you're working through it, but I just want to.
Every time of year is challenging, and now if there's extra bags or a container hasn't been picked up and it's snowing, and
It's very,
right. And so we recognize that, and we're committed to work through it.
To add on to what Mr. Scarpino said, computer monitor pickup is $60 a piece. Is that common that people pay that? And to follow up with that, I think Councilwoman Eklund can probably speak better on this, but there's a been a pile of them on the side of Pratt from somebody not wanting to pay that, so that would also be my fear, that they're not gonna wanna pay it and they're gonna find an alternate way to dispose of it, which isn't very great.
The computers?
Yeah, it just,
Where is it?
just to show that people will find somewhere to get rid of it.
Well, I think that there's probably as expensive alternatives where to take your electronics and your TVs. If you schedule that pickup, as you can see, that's $40. And that's, I think, that's the fee to dispose of, those items. And I would agree completely that that brings the risk, right, of somebody not wanting to pay that, yet wanting to get rid of their computers and their television.
I think a transfer station is what, 30, 35?
It's gone up again, I don't know what the number is, but.
I took a number of TVs there this summer. Crude.
Well, if you take advantage of when Cummins does that recycling program, they take all of that at no charge. It is an issue if you don't have transportation, but if a nice neighbor was willing, who saw that and said, I'm going anyway, I'll take your items when Cummins does it, because they've been doing this for a number of years.
And we are currently looking at a grant opportunity related to a household hazardous material pickup coordination, and to see if we can do some of that. And I'm not exactly sure if electronics and computers and televisions are included in that, but we are looking at that with the mayor's office.
But, there are opportunities to dispose of these items in a safe way, and, a lot of times they are dismantled and parts, components taken out and resold and recycled, so.
You're always gonna get hopefully a very small segment of the population that are gonna try to circumvent things because they don't wanna pay the $60. I agree that we have to have some sort of standard, when it comes to garbage disposal. If you say the lid can be open 2 inches, well, why not 3? Why not 4? So there has to be some sort of minimum standard, here, but you're always gonna have a very small number of people that are gonna be trying to circumvent things because they don't wanna pay money or they wanna throw extra bags out or whatever. I don't think we're not going to eliminate that, is what I'm saying. we're not going to.
But the other issue is if people do recycle more, they probably wouldn't have as much garbage, that's the other thing. Is the more you recycle, the less you've got to put into the garbage, which also helps all the way around. So I'm guessing that a number of people just choose not to recycle, they don't want to hold on to the items, and they just stuff them in the bag, and that is going to fill up the container more quickly. So it's compliance with recycling, it's compliance with putting the appropriate things in the containers, and take advantage of this. This, you know, it's on the website if you don't get a bill, but it explains it. If people would read and look at these things, it's all there. It's just, people tend to not want to look at anything that doesn't comport with what they want to do, and what they want to do is get rid of it in the easiest way possible, which is,
Sure.
like you said, bags on the terrace, bags on top, things don't fit in, you can compress, the air will quite often fill the container, compressing the bags down, getting the air out helps.
There's large families, one of my neighbors has a large family, they have a second container, but very often, even with their two containers, you know, they're overflowing and they have stuff out there. So I don't think we're going to necessarily solve the issue this evening. Like I said, there's gonna be people that, they don't wanna pay the $60, or they don't wanna hold on to their TV and wait for it to have, you know, their program. They wanna get rid of it now, they're gonna chuck it out on the side of the road. We're gonna run into that. But I do agree with Mr. Leathers, and I don't wanna put words in your mouth, but it sounds like you're saying, we need to have a standard. And what is that standard going to be?
Yeah, we're working towards it. Absolutely.
I will also note that I know, I've spoken with Dave many times about a collection area that seems to be habitual. But the BPU, the garbage they do go through those bags and look for addresses, and people have been cited for dumping garbage. So that is happening, and not that I wanna see people dispose of it on the side of the road by any means, but I do commend them for doing that and trying to get some resolution and teaching people that you can't just go dump it on the side of the road.
You've added to the waste bulk by not taking glass. And I take my glass to the transfer station, but you multiply that times the number of residents that don't. Your whole weight distribution in your containers, in your bags, has X number of pounds related to glass. That's added on, because if you throw away all the condiments and you throw away the wine bottles and whatever else that comes in glass, and it goes into the garbage, it adds to the bulk intensity of that garbage. So, unless we can convince people to assemble, either by neighborhoods, to take their glass down at a transfer station, that product is adding to your problem.
Any other questions? No? Thank you. Thank you for coming in and addressing any of the concerns that we all had.
And again, if you have specific issues, please let me know.
It sounds like a work in progress. so.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Very good. All right, we'll move on to our standing committees and housing, did we have anything?
We had no resolutions, but we did have a discussion about housing court being reopened on January 21st. It's a Friday. They are now going to hear 15 cases. So that will be an increase of 5 over what they had been currently hearing in 2021. Also to note that the regular evictions for public health and safety issues have not stopped. I don't have any numbers on how many were processed as evictions during this time period. However, the January 15th deadline of other evictions for non-payment of rent, to my knowledge, has not been extended by the governor. I have not heard anything that they intend to extend it. Something could happen between now and then, but as far as we know, January 15th will be the last date that people can use non-payment of rent, or can now start using non-payment of rent to proceed with evictions. So, the Home American Rescue Plan, opened on January 3rd for rental assistance, and it reopened on the state's end for people to apply for assistance with rent. And I believe it was available to landlords, but again, documentation has been an issue for a number of people to get the funds, which includes having to show and document the losses with receipts, and a lot of people deal with cash and don't have receipts, so they won't be able to take advantage of that program without proper documentation. We also are waiting on the 19As. There have been filings with the court, however, they're just waiting for the courts to grant title for judgments, and we haven't got those yet. So that's all the news we had. I don't know if the director of development has anything else to add.
I think you covered it pretty well.
That's it, so more to come. We'll see what happens on January 15th or before.
Move on, finance committee.
Thank you. First two resolutions were for public improvement bonds. Resolution number 1 is for $425,946.88. That is for the parking ramps. That was approved. Resolution number 2 is for $223,856.27. This was also approved. That was for mostly all for equipment throughout the city. Resolution number 3 resolved that Corporation Counsel Elliot Ramondo and Executive Assistant Zachary Altruder will authorize to attend NICOM Winter Legislative Meeting, February 13th through 14th in Albany. That was approved. Resolution regarding Zachary Altruder to seek tuition reimbursement for the classes attended in the spring 2022. That was not approved. Resolution number 5, designating $100,000 and no cents in the American Rescue Plan Act lost revenue funds for the purpose of funding a new roof on Jamestown Fire Department Station 4, located at 1010 Allen Street. That was approved. Resolution number 6, designating $10,000 and no cents in ARPA lost revenue funds for the purpose of funding a citywide Knox box system. That was approved. Chief, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add?
Just a little clarification for those that may not be familiar with this, with our Knox box system. This is a Knox box, it's an example of one that we use for display purposes only. And what the system is designed to do is allow a property owner to purchase one of these through the fire department, okay? The building owners actually are the owners of these. It's a way for us to secure keys for their buildings. As you guys are already aware, the fire department does keep keys to many residences and buildings throughout the city. There's over 1,900 sets of keys that we have at the fire department. Having a box system like this allows the keys to be stored on site. It's actually attached to the business owner's or the property owner's building. The key that opens these boxes is a unique thing, right? And the key that we have to open these opens every one of the boxes in the city. That's why a prospective purchaser would have to purchase one through us. Our proposal that you have in front of you in the staff report addresses how to secure the actual key that we use to open these boxes. It has to be a positive feedback system. I'm happy to explain how our program works in your packets. Further, individually, if you guys wish to do that, in your packets, you'll find in there where the price list is and all the different products that Knox has on the market. We don't specifically participate with every item that's in that brochure. Some of the products that are offered in there are electronically locked. We do not use an electronic lock system in the city of Jamestown. It's a purely mechanical one that is opened with an actual key. The proposal that you have in front of you also will list, it's a key secure number 5. That's the system that we're looking at. Basically, to account for the keys, every member of the fire department will be issued a specific PIN, a key code, if you will, in order to be able to remove the key from the securing apparatus that would be installed in each fire apparatus. That's it. Any questions, guys?
You said all right.
Certainly.
Yeah.
It's a bit heavy. This is the president.
Okay, we'll move on. Resolution number 7 was designating $210,513.15 revenue funds for the purpose of funding the purchase of 60 portable radios for the Jamestown Police Department. Just to note that these are actually the radios with the trunking, which is different than what was, in the initial ARPA funding, so this is the improved radios. The next item we have was a resolution designating $48,000 and no sums in ARPA lost revenue funds for the purpose of funding Dietrich Park repairs. This is for the roof and the walkway pads at Dietrich Park. That was approved. The next resolution was designating $237,000 and no cents in ARPA lost revenue funds for the purpose of funding a new roof on the Jamestown Parks Department building located at 115 East Fairmont Avenue. Again, that's a very large roof. So just to note that resolutions 5 through 9 are another $605,000 roughly and some change of the funds utilized from ARPA. And then informational reporting, I will read this, and I don't know if Crystal will have anything she wants to add to this. On December 14th, 2021, the city of Jamestown was notified by New York State that they have been awarded grant funding through the Smart Growth Comprehensive Planning Program in the amount of $99,000 and no cents to be used for the city of Jamestown Comprehensive Plan, which will focus on community and economic development. The city was also awarded a grant through the Environmental Protection Local Waterfront Revitalization Program in the amount of $1,280,661 to be used to fund the Chattacoin River Basin activation, enhancement, and improvement of the waterfront. Crystal, do you have anything to add to that?
Sure. A reminder, both of these grants were submitted through the consolidated funding application back in July. We will await our contract from the state for each one, and then we'll begin the process of bidding and looking for consultants to get both of them started. So I don't know if there are any specific questions that anyone has, but I'm happy to answer anything you've got. For anyone who, for some of our newer council members, I can send around, we've got some kind of background information. We had a Chattacoin River Business Strategic Plan that was put together. I can make sure that you have that. I'm not sure if you do. And then there's some other things. We haven't had a comprehensive plan update since 1998, so we're really excited about the comprehensive plan as well as the Chattacoin project. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.
Okay, that is it out of finance.
I have a question about number 4, the tuition reimbursement. Is there presently a tuition reimbursement program that the city offers to employees? Is there one right now?
Only on certain contractual agreements.
You're talking about through the union?
Yes, yes, correct.
Okay.
There is one for management employees through the management guidelines.
And there are specific rules and guidelines that have to be followed, and it has to be relevant to the individual's job.
So if someone's taking classes and they're relevant to what their job description or job duties, then they can be covered, is that correct?
Could potentially, yes.
Okay.
Like, for instance, I know in the past, we have covered classes for, and we say notary, or things relevant to finance director getting things, or other unions are treated differently, so I'm just talking about the management one.
Were we given the types of classes or have privy to the types of classes that he's taking? Do they fall under his job duties or the management guidelines?
They were presented tonight, but depends how you look at it. The policy was not followed in certain steps, pre-approval and all that stuff before signing up for them and submitting that. In addition to, discussion was had that they were not relevant and necessary to the role of an executive assistant.
Two courses, leadership roundtable and public policy.
Can we get copies, or can I get a copy of the,
It should have been in your agenda packet.
okay, I missed it, I apologize.
They should have gotten everything, I'm sure, she sends them everything.
Okay,
I didn't know
all
if
right,
you-
I'll take a look at that. Thank you.
Again, somebody has
Yes,
any questions on that? Anything else?
No, that was, thank you.
Did you want Ryan to go now?
I believe
I'm gonna go with it.
later.
Okay.
So,
All right, so then we'll move on to public safety.
Thank you, President. We had one member from the public, Mr. Green, address our committee as well as the other committee. Basically, he was talking about the tragic loss of life we had in the city of female who's killed by truck. And he believes that there needs to be more education to our residents, especially the children, about crossing the street. Basically, says people need to be taught to fear the streets. That the streets can be very dangerous when you're crossing. But his action plan was red means stop on the sidewalk, stay away from the curb. Green means stop, don't walk, don't run. But look in all directions. Look behind you, look left, look right, look forward. Listen for traffic noises that are unforeseen. And then think, is it safe to leave the curb and cross the street? You could watch in all directions, swiveling your head around. So, by the time that he brought this forward, he mentioned that the policing officer who was working with youth, our city, who could help her enforce that. But a lot of this, starts at home and also can be taught in the schools. Something that we need to think about. And with the winter weather, I also mentioned that it's not safe to be walking in the streets. There's just a lot of people walking in the streets because the streets are not, because the sidewalks are not shoveled. It's much more dangerous to walk in the street. So slippery out there and walking on an unshoveled road. As for resolution, we had three of the same resolutions financed that. First was $100,000 in ARPA funds on a new roof on Jamestown Fire Department Station Number 4, located on John Street. Approved. Two, was made $10,000 in ARPA funds for purpose of funding the citywide knock system. Well, the third resolution was designating $10,513.15 in ARPA funds for funding the purchase of 60 portable radios. And that was good. We did have one information report, toll rate card for Anthony Kennedy, TCP towing, and that was approved. And then we did have discussion with Police Chief Jackson about short staffing that the police department currently seeing. Currently, there are 4 vacancies in the police department. 6 members are off on COVID at this point. 1 member is off on light duty. 2 are off for no duty. And 1 officer is currently deployed. This has really led to an increase in overtime. There is a current list. There are academy members who are set to graduate sometime in February. So there are 2 good candidates there that we know live within the city. Other candidates on the list, I'm not sure if they've been to the Sheriff's Academy or currently. So the chief will be investigating that further to fill the other space. Questions?
Well,
there was 2 resolutions, and Tim did cover that. Yeah, it was $48,000 in there for the rescue plan for the funding at Dietrich Park and for repairs to the roof, I understand. $237,000 in those cents for the Parks Department. And that would be it.
Any questions? That close all of that. Anything else? If not, we'll move on to, you're up.
Okay, sounds good.
Made it to you.
All right. I do have several updates tonight, and a couple executive session items. First and foremost, just want to give you all an update similar to what we are seeing in the community. The City of Jamestown employees have also experienced an increase in COVID infection. So we want to just advise the council that places like our Public Works Department does have an increasing number of COVID cases, as well as our police and our fire. So we are trying our best to maintain things, especially during difficult times such as the snow that you see outside. But we're working around the clock. We've got some employees working longer shifts in order to make up for some of those things. So we ask that as you all field questions from residents, as well as the public, to be patient as we work through it, just like every other company is working through it as well. The other update I'd like to give on COVID is the county has provided the city 500 rapid COVID tests, at-home COVID tests, through New York State Department of Homeland Security. The school system, as you know, has already received their own allocation of these tests, as well as various not-for-profits, congregate settings, and other places have their own kits. Tonight we'll be putting out some information, and the council probably received some information as well. But we will be having 5 different sites where folks can either walk up or drive up and get a home test kit, as well as various masks provided and made for actually by the Resource Center. I do want to thank the Resource Center for providing us over 500 masks that they actually make in-house, with in-house labor. We really appreciate them, as well as the test kits, and we still have a lot of New York Clean left over, so everyone's also going to get a complimentary couple bottles of New York Clean to take home with them. They do expire in a couple months, so we want to get those out to everyone. We will be, again, sending out a press release to the media after tonight. We are encouraging council members to come join us to hand out those kits, although I will tell you that I anticipate that they will go quickly, because if any of you have been to Rite Aid or Walgreens trying to find one of these kits, is like finding a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow right now. So we are going to be providing this out and providing more information. As of right now, we are looking at providing 100 kits per site. The Prendergast Library will have them starting on Wednesday afternoon. We'll have another distribution site at JCC Wednesday from 3 to 4. Purcell Middle School at the Baker Street bus loop Wednesday from 5 to 6. Christ First United Methodist Church Thursday from 3 to 4. And the Allen Park Ice Skating Rink, or they should say the soccer field now, right? From 5 to 6 on Thursday. So again, we'll push that information out. Council members should have already received an email about those. I encourage you guys to come. If you do come, please come right at the top of the hour if possible, as I have a feeling these kids are going to go quickly. The other items that I have for you all is a couple other updates. Thank you all for the work that you've been doing with the American Rescue Plan Act. Starting to approve these projects are a really big thing for the community, and we really appreciate all that work and the time and effort you guys are putting into these. We are planning on providing a group of projects each month for you all to take a look at, to understand, and starting next council session, we'll start to talk a little bit about some of the economic development projects and other projects that we'll start to see. So we are going to kind of put these in small bite-sized pieces, make sure we update the quotes, the information, the numbers, and start to present those to council in various items. I do want to thank the Finance Committee for all the work that you guys have done on that, as well as all the council members for continuing to work on getting this money out the door and really improving the community. I do want to note just a few other things. The state of the city will happen this month. We are looking and aiming for the 31st, is that right, Zach? For the 31st. We will most likely do it as a virtual State of the City speech, so I will spare you all from the voting session from hearing that, but we will most likely be doing a virtual one given just the number of COVID cases and things going on. We'll probably pre-record that and push that out to all the council members as well as the media and the public at the same time. More information to come on that. Just want you to know it's on our radar and we're continuing to finalize that. A couple department level updates just to give you some information. I know Dan Stone is here from Parks. Just to give you an update, we normally around this time, in some lighthearted news, pick up Christmas trees. Discarded Christmas trees across the city. Dan today had made mention that typically these trees go to the Kinzu Fish and Wildlife Association, which uses them to help deal with parts of the riverbed. Is that right, Dan? And on average, we pick up, and this is a fun fact that I just like to give, 1,000 to 1,200 trees every year. It's a lot of Christmas trees. Yeah. So good to know if you do leave them out and let the Parks Department know, they're going to a good cause and they're staying all natural. I guess if there's any pine needles left on the trees at this point, right? A couple other updates is Deputy Fire Chief Kuhn can note ladder 1 has been returned. I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Certainly. Guys, yep, ladder 1 project is 98% complete. The truck has all been repaired at Pierce and it was shipped back to us. We received it last Friday. It's currently parked downstairs at Fire Station 1. If any of you would like to stop by to check it out, you are more than welcome to do that. We just have a couple of service things to do and then basically re-outfit the truck, put all the tools and all the equipment back into it, and we'll be ready to run. So should be within the coming weeks and we'll have it back in full service.
Great. Thank you. We are still working on, and if you've been into City Hall, there's been some issues with the elevators. We are continuing to work on those. There are some programming and electrical issues between the two different elevators, and so we're continuing to work on those. So if you do see an elevator is out of service, it's because we've continually had the contractors here trying to work on those things. They're still safe. If they're out of order, it's most likely because there's a weird thing going on with one of the buttons. So
I'll try a walk.
you could walk the stairs too. That's a good idea. Yeah. Tax bills have also gone out. As you guys may have seen, I got some phone calls out. You can pay those online through the city's website, should you wish. There is a convenience fee that does apply, whether that's using a credit card or an e-check. You can also come in and pay. We have a lot of people that come in and pay their taxes still. Some all cash, which is always a fun thing. Banks are still open to take cash, right? It's an interesting conundrum. But last year we saw a huge increase in online payments. That still seems to be the case. We are receiving those online payments, which is great. And we'll give you an update and have the clerk give you an update once tax collection closes. The only other update I have is I have a couple items for executive session. I do want to note, go Bills, before we close. But I do have 3 items for executive session, 1 personnel matter and 2 collective bargaining agreement matters that we'd like to talk about. And I have no action to be taken at this time on those items.
Very good. Anything else before we go into executive session? A motion to go into executive session, so moved by Councilman Kruger, seconded by all in favor?
Aye.
This is for 1 item for personnel, collective bargaining, no action to be taken. Anybody?
Yes, absolutely. If we could have